Welcome to the Pinterest and SEO Marketing Club, where we are able to give you all the value and all the amazing things. I am going to be streaming today on Facebook. I'm streaming on LinkedIn. I'm streaming on the Facebook group, the Pinterest and SEO Marketing Facebook group. Hey, Priscilla. I don't know why I'm up here, Faber. Sorry about that. No, you're fine. It's okay. I'm moving myself to the audience, okay? No problem. No problem. It's crazy how I've had this happen every time. I probably have to call support, but at the end of the day, I still want to be here. So the floor is open. I'll be opening up the room to everyone so that you guys can be able to come and ask your questions. It's going to be a solid 30 to 40 minutes because I want to make sure that I keep it as succinct as possible and give you guys exactly what you need. So I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on in the Facebook group as usual. I'm live on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can see me. And if you're also following me on Facebook personally, you can see me too. So we're going to be talking about Google is replacing web page titles with on page text. And this is why I really scheduled this room. I think it was over the weekend because I have been really looking out to understand how to help people build strategy without thinking too much about, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, what do I need to do? How many file names do I have to create? Those are things that are just vanity metrics. But in this room today, I want to give you some actionable strategies you can actually use to make sure that you can apply this to your business and apply this to whatever you're doing online. So, this is why I created this room today. The reason why Google is replacing web page titles with on page text is because the AI is getting very, very smart. Like the technology now is getting really smart to the point where you need to make sure that what you're posting is creating value for people to actually create content so that when they see your content, they can understand your content. And then Google as well can understand your content because the last thing you want to do is to create content for someone to read and Google can understand what you're saying. That's a bad practice because you are essentially trying to tell someone about something that you do, but Google is not understanding what you're even doing for them to even give you that leverage to, push that. So you want to be able to create content and make sure that your on page text. And what is on page text? Your on page text should be visible. So this is what you need to do with your on page text. Now, you have content, right? And the content that you're creating is essentially for the reader. Never forget this, guys. And please never forget this. You're writing for the reader. You're writing for someone who is going to read that information and take a step. So Google is replacing this web page titles. Not that it's literally taking the web page titles off and it's becoming irrelevant. You want to be able to use the relevance on your page. So, how do you do this? If you're talking about a certain topic, right, and you have a keyword for it, I would not tell you, and this is something I want you to do. I don't want you to create this keyword and find, oh, this keyword has 50,000 search volume. Okay, so let me use this keyword across my whole text and stuff it with keywords. That is not a best practice because a best practice is saying, okay, I'm going to be talking about athleisure wear because, I just love, athleisure. And then I can now talk about healthy diets, when you're working out. I can talk about how to keep yourself sane, through your work process. How can you be able to dress better or maybe have clothes that are breathable? Those are things that you're going to be asking yourself and someone else is going to be asking. That's why when Google sends you a people also ask section, it's because they're also asking other questions, not just a question you asked Google, but other questions that Google knows that you could benefit because you're discussing a certain topic. So if you want to be part of that topic search and that research that is being ranked, then you have to start creating content that people can see, they can understand, they can read, they can feel, they can actually connect with you. And when they connect with you, ultimately, what you're going to be doing is helping people see clearer on what they're searching for. Have you ever searched for something online? You have no idea what the result is going to be, but as soon as you read that text, you have full understanding of what exactly you need to do. That makes you feel better. It makes you feel smarter. It makes you feel like you actually have something to offer. And that ultimately allows people to connect with you. And this is how you're able to connect with them. When you start adding featured snippets, this is the best way to fast track your process. Now, Google appreciates content that is supported with media. I'll say this again. Google supports content that is pretty much media related. And what do I mean? A featured snippet could be a YouTube video, it could be a Twitter card, it could be a LinkedIn article, it could be a Facebook post, it could be a live event, it could be anything that you're doing outside of Google that you're bringing back to Google. But how Google knows that you actually have content outside Google, and which is pretty much your website or any other social website, is when you start to actually create content for that reader. That's why when you find results, those results are highly based on quality because there's something called a relevance score. So if you have images, a good practice is have at least 3 images or at least one. Even if you don't have any other image, at least have one image, because if you have a blog, right, an article, a news feed, and there's no image to that context, I trust I trust 100% that no one is really going to see that result, because they're not going to associate themselves with that page because there's nothing to look at. I mean, you can look at the text, you can look at the fonts, but you can't really that you can digest that information faster, and this is the keyword, faster, than you would if you actually have an image. So if you're talking about a topic, get an image, go to unsplash.com, go to pexels.com, go to these sites that actually have royalty free images and use that and credit them, because sometimes people just take photos and they don't credit, and that's a bad thing because you crediting someone is a backlink to them, and that's also an added value to you commercially. So if you're taking a picture from unsplash.com, they even tell you, make sure that you tell the people who this person is. I've done it for myself. I did that with the Clubhouse article. The Clubhouse article you see that's on my website, if you type in how to play music on Clubhouse, you'll see an image there. That image is from Unsplash. But the reason why that image becomes a featured snippet is because I used alt text. And when you use alt text, and I've talked about this, if you've been in my rooms, if you've been in this club, you know exactly what I mean. Alternative text. You want to describe the image as vividly as possible so that Google can connect that to the text that you've built. If it's 1,000 words, if it's 500 words, even if it's your homepage, there needs to be some type of image. Imagine going to a website and there's no image. Like, you're gonna bounce real quick because there's nothing to see, there's no color, there's no substance, there's no messaging, there's no branding. So you don't want to be flat out blank. You don't want to do that because you want to start creating content for people who are going to understand your message when they're looking at your content. So here's where you have to start thinking about content. The reason why they're replacing it is this, and I read it in an article, and I'm going to post this article after this room closes in the Pinterest and SEO marketing Facebook group. So if you have not joined the Facebook group, click the link in my bio on Instagram or Twitter, and it's the very first block that you're going to see there. You can be able to sign up, answer those 3 questions because it will be beneficial to you, and that way we can be able to do this. I know people are already on the live. I can see you guys here, so it's good to see you on the live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Periscope. I heard Periscope is gone, but I'm on there, so I'll definitely check and see if I'm still there. But I'm also on YouTube as well in the unlisted section. So why am I bringing this up to you? You need to know that it's before it was 100%, and this is where the replacing comes in. It was 100% on Google's terms that you need to actually create web page titles that actually convert. But because I said in the beginning that it's become a space now that you can actually be able to drop from 100% to 80%. And this is what I mean. Because it's 80% based on web page titles now, And I got this from Search Engine Journal, by the way, if you're wondering where this information is coming from. I just want to expand this so you can hear my perspective and also know how to apply it to your business. So they mentioned this information and they said about 80% now is web page title friendly. And where's the other 20% going to? That 20% is going to your on page text. So if you have a long tail keyword and you want to rank for this word, you want to use words around this keyword to explain what you're talking about. When you write a paper, when you do a dissertation, when you do a research paper, you're going to cite from a source, but you're not going to plagiarize that source. You're going to talk about it in a way that can build your expertise and also build your persona. You have to add your own characteristic to it. So what we're trying to say here on Google is the same thing. It's the same concept. If you're copying from Wikipedia and you're saying this is the definition of this word, then the next sentence that should follow should be aligned to that keyword that you described and also use an image or even better, a video to actually create that, because this is now when you start to see a lot of things happening for your business. This is where you start to see a lot of creative activity going on, because the whole understanding of this, and I see you, Alvin. Thank you so much for the emoji. I see that. When you use this content, right? You want to use your content in a way that someone can understand, including Google. Guys, forget that Google is trying to understand your content and you're not giving them any leeway. So you want to be able to use your content, and in every sentence, in every paragraph, you should be able to put out your keywords across the text. And now this is where I'm going to on page text. On page just means what are the keywords that are being displayed on your website or your web page specifically, because every web page is individual. It's pretty much like independent of each other. Even though you have a website, you have web pages. So those web pages could be your home page, it could be your about page, it could be your contact page, it could be your sign up page, it could be a services page. Whatever page you're using, a blog page, the blog is usually the best because that's where you have all the content. But when you want to create content about this, you want to be able to build relevance. And here's where the relevance comes in. If you're talking about a certain topic and this topic is being described, right, you want to use all the possible words that you could say that are related to this keyword. And that's why it's called something called latent semantic indexing, which is just known as LSI. You can go to lsigraph.com to see what I mean, or you could easily go to the Google Keyword Planner and see what I'm talking about. Or better, go to Pinterest Trends to see, because when you start creating content, right, you want to start building relevance so that your content becomes very, very, very simple to the reader. You want to have content that's pretty much like ninth grade reading, fifth grade reading. Not that your grading is fifth grade per se, but it's so understandable that even Google understands what you're saying. Because if you're not writing for the audience, you're writing for yourself, but you want to write for your audience so that your audience understands where you're going to. And the only way they can understand where you're going to is when you start using keywords that are related. Do this today and tell me what you see. Go to Google, type in what you want to search for, what you want to rank for. You're going to see something, right? You're going to see ads. You're possibly going to see snapshots. You're going to see images. You're going to see like 10 results on Google, right? If you scroll all the way down to the end of those pages, you're going to notice something. You're going to see related keywords. Those related keywords are being literally typed, manually typed by somebody else somewhere. And that has been captured by Google, that this person is looking for cooking recipes, but somebody else is looking for a cooking recipe PDF. So now you decide and say, okay, if somebody's looking for this information, how can I be able to give them what they're looking for without going off topic? So that's the thing that you need to focus on when you're creating content for your audience. You want to make sure that your web page title has keywords. The shorter it is, even the better, because that way, if you have a short let's say example.com forward slash whatever it is, you want to be as short as possible because Google is going to index that URL. And if the URL is very long, chances are it's debatable. Chances are you may not get as much ranking or as much visibility as you would if you only had, let's say, 3 or 4 words that are your keywords. So it's, let's say, best practices for marketing. That is going to be your keyword example. It's going to be example.com forward slash best dash marketing dash, tips dash for marketing, something like that. When you start creating content, I'm just giving you guys examples as we go, but the fundamental practice here is that when Google is indexing your content, Google wants to index your content as fast as possible. And I said this in the description notes, and somebody was like, whoa, I didn't know that. Google, and guys, listen, Google changes their algorithm at least, guys, 8 times a day. 8 times a day. So if you're literally creating content and Google is changing their algorithm 8 times a day, and people are complaining that Instagram is changing their algorithm, what are you really doing with your content at this point? Because anything that you post on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Periscope, if you're on Twitter, if you're anywhere else, you want to be able to start building relevance, because this relevance all of a sudden becomes very important to you. And ultimately, you now actually start to build relevance for the people who are reading it. And this is why relevance comes in. And this is why it's important. Because if your content is relevant to, and this is really what I want you guys to take away from all this that I'm saying today. If your content, right, is relevant, if your content is relevant to the person that is searching for something related to what you posted, then Google is going to put you in the people also asked section. And the only way, and catch this, the only way you can end up in that section is when you have something called structured data. Now, I'm going to simplify this for you. What is structured data? It means that, for example, if you open a book, you buy a book, the book has a book cover, it has an image, it's attractive. You open it up, you see the table of context, you open it up again, you see the chapters, and you start to read, right? Now, what you're essentially doing is this: the same concept that you apply for the book is what you apply for your website. So you have your website, it's www.yourname.com, right? That is your cover, that's your book cover. Now, the forward slash after that is going to be, let's say, about, right? Your about section is a chapter in your book, right? In that book, you have text, you have information, you have context, you have things that can relate to that specific topic, right? That chapter that you're looking at is a heading tag. And a heading tag is also known as H1 or H2. This is why H1 is the main tag. That H1 is your book title cover. Whatever you want people to read about in that book, that is your H1. And you translate that to your business. The H2 tag, right, is the subheading. So it's a chapter within the book. So if you want to rank for something online, then your questions have to be dealt with from the H1 and the H2. So that if you say best practices for social media is your H1 tag, that's what people are seeing. That's what Google has seen. And that's also known as a web page title because it's going to a web page on your website. The on-page text now should also have those words that I have in my webpage, whether it's best practices for social media. Step number 1, do this. Step number 2, do this. Support them with images. When you support them with images and your image captions, your file names, and your alt text are all pretty much relevant, like I said, to your context, which is your H1 tag, then and only then can Google understand what you're trying to say. And when Google understands what you're trying to say, that's when you start creating relevance for the long run. Because sometimes you get to see that you post something today, it goes viral. Then 2 months after that, nobody remembered what you posted. Now, Google does not forget. That's the thing. People are going to forget what you did, people are going to forget what you said. but people will never forget how you made them feel. So if I'm making you feel some type of way when you're reading my content, chances are you're probably going to engage with the content because it's relevant to you. It's relevant to your search. It's relevant to your topic of interest. So those interest topics should be what you're covering across your text, and then there should be a call to action. This call to action is something that's so important that people kind of miss out. And it's this: the call to action could be book a scheduled call with me, leave your comment section, share this image, or what are your thoughts. There should be a conclusion section for your webpage too if you're writing a blog, because these things are going to enhance your content over time. And when Google is indexing your content, Google is going to index your content from your heading tags. So these are things I don't want to get overwhelmed with you guys today, but I want to make sure that you understand that Google is the best place for your content to live, because 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years after, you will still be able to be relevant. And I keep saying this word. You're still going to be relevant to the search, because somebody is always going to look for something. And when they find that result, they're going to stick with that result, especially if it's highly beneficial and satisfactory to their need. So you want to solve that need. You want to fulfill that need. And by fulfilling that need, you need to use your on page text. So if you don't have your web page title connected to your on page text, you're essentially telling Google that I'm talking about best practices for social media, but I have no supporting content that's going to relay the same information semantically from what I've already talked about on the web page. So these are best practices that you should be focusing on now. And that 80% is going to go a long, long, long way. So that 20% as well that you're creating for content should be what should keep people, so that the 80% of the content that you're producing is applied. And this is another thing that you need to know too. They said that 80% of the people who read your text end up having 20% of the people who scroll down through the text, which means is another way to say, like right now, people are in the hallway, right? And they're scrolling, they see titles. Those are titles, those are heading tags. What I have right now here is a heading tag. That's a heading tag that's leading you to do something. So if I write a blog right now and say Google is replacing web page titles with on-page text, I'm going to use this in my main heading tag, right? But the URL is not going to be as long as this title, because it's going to have something called a stop word. What is a stop word? A stop word is like for, with, is. It's pretty much a conjunction. But, however, consider, subsequently, whatever you want to whatever you want to say. All those things are going to be put as stop words, and Google does not understand stop words. So literally they stop at the word that you ended right before you said that stop word. And if it's anything that's in conjunction to what you said, it may not be read through because you put a block on it. So the best practice to do is use a full heading title, because you want to be as natural and as English savvy as possible, in a way that someone can read that information and understand what you're talking about before they even click on it. And then the URL, when you want to share it, it could be example.com/. Google replacement with on page text. For example, you want to do something that is going to be keyword specific, so that the beginning of your word and the end of your word are making sense. So, Google on page text, those are the beginning and the end of the words. That's what you can be able to do to start helping you boost out your content. So, with that said, I hope that this is something that you can be able to start applying today. And I'll recap on this. Make sure that you're able to have your content done in a way that Google understands your image, Google understands your video. Even the words that you say in your video need to be indexed, so that you can be able to have good captions that people can transcribe into index content, right? The next thing that you also have to think about is, when people are finding your content has to be so specific that when someone is finding your result, people can also ask other questions and you can end up as a suggestion. And nobody buys Google spots. Just know that. Nobody is like, oh, I'm going to buy from Google to be on page number 6 or page number 1. Nobody does that. You want to be able to use organic feedback by answering questions. So the H2 tags I talked about, if you use the navigational words, like I said, how to do this, where do you find this? What is this? What is digital marketing? You answer the question. Digital marketing is, you answer that question. Whatever words you're using after the is going to be something that Google is going to index. And if it makes sense semantically, then you will be able to rank because you've structured your information for search. So these are things that I want you to take home today and just learn how to be able to build it so that you can understand how this makes sense for your business. So I'm going to open up the room now to everyone, and the hand raising is open to everyone now. So if you have any question that I've just talked about, any clarification that you need, please send me a message in the back channel, or just raise your hand and I'll bring you up onto the stage. I want us to have a very good conversation today so that we can make this understandable. I don't want to go over your heads today. I want to give you guys something you can use. And that's why I started this week off like this. And I know it's a holiday, but I wanted to make sure that I can come here quickly and give you guys this information. So it's good to see you here, Andrea. How are you? I'm doing well. How are you? I'm doing well. It's been a minute. I haven't seen you in a while. I know. I've been on a break. I have two questions, Faber, regarding images. So, my first one is about the alt tags. I've been kind of lazy about those, and I don't think I've done that consistently. If I go back into my media library and start adding alt tags to to photos that already are on my website, is that going to be helpful? Great question. Yes, Google actually loves updates. Google loves updates. Yeah. So if you go back to your media library on your website and you change those alt texts, it's going to take between, let's say, 1 to 3 days for Google to index it. And then it's going to be refreshed in the system. Like if you change your titles, if you change your copy, if you change your images, that helps. Like for me, when I did the Clubhouse article, I had another image that was not the Unsplash image. And when I changed it, Google recognized that I changed it, and then they also updated the system for everyone to see. So you can be able to change your alt text, change your metadata, which is possible. The only thing you can't change if you've uploaded, for example, like to YouTube and you're posting content there, is your file name. Everything else you can always change if you have access to your website. Excellent. And then my second question is about the backlinking you were talking about, because I do use photos from Unsplash, and I did credit once, but I don't always credit. So if I credit, it's sending the link back to Unsplash, right? And how is that helpful to me, except that I'm just linking to a credible site? Is that the gist of it? Right. So the reason why I said you can credit them, just like when you credit, someone that, you take pictures with on Instagram or Facebook, when you credit the source, this is what happens. Google understands that you got this image from Unsplash. If you didn't put the word Unsplash or give them the link to Unsplash, then they'll pretty much just say, yeah, it's your content, which is fine, but you don't gain that backlink exposure in the sense that because I've clicked on this link, it's going to take me to Unsplash, right? I have no idea what Unsplash is in the first place. And I click on it and it takes me to a whole new field where I can actually explore. Now, Google is going to notice that somebody clicked on that link and was sent to Unsplash because of you, because of your content. And that's going to add credible social proof to you because you're backing up your content with relevant sources. Just like, when I talked about the citation and how you can reference someone else or Wikipedia really, they benefit from you because it's a backlink. But in terms of authority, Google is going to know that you are also savvy in what you're saying, and you can back that up with another source that can allow that information to run through. And then once they're done clicking on Wikipedia or on Splash, they can come right back to your article and then make a comment. So sometimes people are intrigued by what they see because that's a way to really engage with the audience overall. Does that help? That's excellent. Yeah, that's great. And so I just have one more question. Sorry. Yeah. Because you just mentioned comments. So I've turned comments for my blog post off. Is that like not good from an SEO perspective? Well, I get it. I guess it is good for SEO because people are commenting. But
Like how detrimental is that, I guess, by not having comments on? Is it a big thing? Is it a little thing?
That's a very debatable question because I noticed that some people end up leaving comments on articles, which is great because that gives you some really strong feedback. But that is kind of like a forum in a way. Like it kind of shows you that, okay, somebody read this and somebody commented. And if they comment with something that's actually valuable, like if they add their 2 cents and it's credible information, then that's going to be added as metadata to the website. But because you turned it off, it doesn't mean that it's detrimental to your blog or your article because now nobody can comment. Maybe you just want them to go to a different landing page. Maybe you want them to do something else with your content. So you're not going to be dinged or debunked because your website is not having a comment section. But try and do this, test it out and see. If you turn some off and you turn some on, you'll see that the comments and the comments that are not there could actually be translated to how people can be able to respond to your content. And overall, if they're actually making sense in the comment section and then you reply, and maybe you reply with an article or a link, that's a good way for them to click through because the only reason why they're commenting is because they understand the context. So that's really one thing you can use as a way to leverage, but it's not detrimental to your business if you do not have the comment section on.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the comments are additional ways for Google to find that page. So maybe my on-page SEO wasn't so great, but the comments are good and my responses to those comments are good. So that's just a different way for somebody to end up finding the post itself.
That's a good way to put it, but here's what's going to happen. Before they even find that content, Google has to find that content for them. And
Yeah.
if your on page is not structured, they will never find that content piece because what they search for, Google did not give you as a suggestion. So for them to comment means that your on page, your structure, your heading, your file name, your alt text, your pretty much what you're trying to explain to people in that one article is digested and someone can be able to understand it, which will allow Google to leave you, no other choice than to just rank you because now you've been able to answer those questions. And the only way you answer those questions is when you know what people are typing, literally verbatim. So when you do that content keyword research and you use those exact names, because sometimes people say, oh, t-shirts and t-shirts, what's the difference? The t-shirts is a completely different volume search or search volume from the word t-shirt. So if you use those two, for example, as a case study and say, okay, if I want to rank, then if the word t-shirts is doing better than the word t-shirt, then let me use the word t-shirts and find what are the related keywords. Is it going to be casual t-shirts? Is it going to be t-shirts for women? Is it going to be t-shirts for sporting outfits? Is this t-shirts for outdoors? When you start answering those questions that Google is already giving you suggestions and you place that into your paragraphs and you split those paragraphs across the page because you don't want to just use that word once on your page. You want to use it across the text, but also not stuffing it by actually adding other related keywords that can support it. So you can tell them where to go or where to buy it from. Those are things that they can use to at least enhance the text, but not necessarily you saying that, okay, I'm going to use this word and it's going to stick that way. The more you're able to use it per paragraph, the better, because when Google indexes your site, it indexes through the whole site, including the file names that are also indicated to the website. Does that help and gain some clarity?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. You're most welcome. Thank you so much for these questions because it builds clarity for people, who are here and who are able to really understand what the value is and what they can be able to do. So, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll bring you up on stage because if there's no more question, then I will be closing out the room in the next 5 minutes. I want to give you guys some announcements to just let you know what's going to be happening this week. I know I've not set up all the events for the week, but you definitely know I'm going to be here again tomorrow. So I want to make sure that you guys have understood what it means and how you're able to actually build this. So if no one has a question, I'm going to pose a question to you guys and it will be great to hear some participation by just raising your hand. I won't bring you up on stage. I just want to know so that I'm able to understand and really make sure that you guys fully understand this. So By a show of hands, and you guys can raise your hand, I won't bring you up. By a show of hands, how many of you have a website? One, two, three, four, five, five. Okay, six, seven. Okay, eight, nine. Okay, nine. Amazing. Thank you so much for letting me know. So this information is very important. And websites can be tricky. Websites can be very stressful, but you want to be able to use this website so that people can find you. So number one, if you have not done this and you have a website, please do this today. And if someone is doing it for you, let them do it for you. Make sure that you have your website connected. And this is the only way you end up on Google search. So all that I'm saying today is going to be invalid, irrelevant, and just not useful if you're not doing what I'm about to say. Connect your website, and this is free. Connect your website to Google Search Console. Google Search Console, just type it on Google. You're going to get it. And then when you log in, the website that you registered your website with, the email, sorry, you registered your website with, use that website and then use the login from Google because it's a Google product, right? So use the Gmail account that you created. If it's a workspace account you used, whatever platform you used, use the Gmail and then connect your account. And if you have, let's say, let's say you have GoDaddy or Google Domains, for example, how you can verify this, because they're going to tell you to do some connections and you're probably going to wonder, what am I going to do next? If you want this to happen for you, you want to be able to take this Google Search Console, and then this Google Search Console is where Google is going to verify your property. That's why I usually tell people that I treat my website like land, because I bought the domain, I have the property, and I have whatever is on that property that's going to grow in value. I talked about it, and I know Cherry, you talked about it too, that just like when you have a house, when you pay for a house, when you're building your interest, when you're building your sustainability, these are things that you're going to be able to have as an asset, right? So your website is an asset to your business. And how is it an asset to your business? The content that is within that website is what are the variables that's going to make a difference in your business. So if you've not connected your website to Search Console, you should. I know, like Wix, for example, they've partnered up with Google whereby you can be able to automatically do it from the dashboard and connect your website to the Search Console. Why is this important? Because if you go to any website today, and if you've never tried this, try this out. If you go to any website and let's say you pick out the article, there's going to be a section that has a little I. That I, when you click on it, it's going to tell you that this website was registered to the ICANN, sorry, and it's been registered as this person, so and so person. So if you see that, it's also going to tell you the month and the year that you indexed your website. If you don't have that connected, Google does not see you as a verified source. Simple. If you're not a verified source on Google, Google will never recommend your content to anyone because you've not even followed their guidelines. You've not even followed their rules. Their rule is connect your website to the Google Search Console, and additionally, connected to the Google Analytics. You can go to analytics.google.com and connect that same email address that we talked about to the website. When you do that, this is what's going to happen for your business ultimately. Once it's indexed, right? Anything that you post on your website, Google is going to find that sitemap. And then when you go to your Google Search Console, right? When you go to your Google Search Console and you verify it, you're going to get a green check which says, okay, this has been verified. Now you can use your Google Search Console for performance. At that point in time, there is absolutely nothing that's being shown on your site. The next thing that you want to do, right, is okay, how do I get this website to rank on Google? There's something called a site map, right? Every website online has a sitemap, whether you know it or not. You probably have it, you probably don't. And if you have it, the better it is for you. Because when you have a sitemap, right, this sitemap allows Google literally to navigate your website. if you don't have a map, how do you go? How do you use a GPS without a map? So you want to be able to use your website as a tracking source for Google to find your content, so that all this H1, H2, H3 we're talking about are already located on your website manually, right? But the only way Google can see that is if you have a sitemap and you've indexed your website through the console. When you do that through the console, you're essentially telling Google that, hey, I own this website, I own this content, and I own this business. Just like you have Google My Business, you can say, I own this business, here's my address. They're going to send you, even like when Google My Business, when you set it up, they even send you a package. They send you like a card so that you can verify your address. It's like a way of testing it. So there's no way you can do something without testing. So you want to be able to create content valuable enough for Google to see, and then your H1 tag, which you're going to see on your website. If someone types www.yourwebsite.com, the first thing that they should see there should be a H1 tag, because that H1 tag is going to be the book cover to your website. And if that book cover has the keywords that people are searching for around you, then and only then can you be able to be ranked. But if you're not connected to the Search Console, there's no way in at all that you can be able to be on Google. So that's something I wanted to highlight for you guys to see. And I can still see some hands that are raised. So if your hands is still raised, I'll bring you up on stage, because I was only doing a poll and some people brought their hands down. So if you have any question, keep your hands up and I will bring you onto the stage so that I can be able to help you. I want to make sure that everything is clear and we're able to have a complete conversation and then help you with this platform that's called Google. So if no one has a question, then I guess you guys pretty much have all the answers. I mean, there's much more to it, but this should be a very good start to at least give you some clarity and build something that you can be able to see and use for your business. So I know I'm live on LinkedIn, I'm live on Facebook, I'm live on YouTube, Periscope, and I'm on Clubhouse. So just to make sure that you guys know what this is about, is that you have to create content that stands out. The moment you start to create content that stands out, Google will stand you out. Google will put you in a position where you can start to create value, and that way you end up being on the suggested page. That's why even with YouTube, you realize there are some videos on YouTube that you end up in the suggested box. That's not because you paid YouTube to suggest. That's because you manually created content that Google can recognize, that YouTube can recognize, that ultimately allows someone that is searching for your content to find you. So the image caption, your file name, your alt text, your on page, your web page, this thing sounds like a lot of information to take in. But the moment you start to realize that this is going to help your business tomorrow, the more time you're able to actually create for this. So if you guys are not still understanding, or you probably understand and now you want to know, what do I do next? Because I love action. I love taking action. The next thing that you need to do now is, if you are interested in actually understanding more about this, click the link in my bio on Instagram or Twitter, and there's a section that's going to tell you join the SEO Masterclass waitlist. When you join the Masterclass waitlist, you're going to be able to opt in. Once you opt in, you're going to get an email from me very soon. I talked about this last week and I said to people that who are already on the mailing list, and we're growing. We are really, really growing. So these are things that you want to be able to do to create value for your website. And then if you understand this SEO best practices that I'll show you, in that after that masterclass is released to you, you'll be able to see how this goes. And I'm going to be sharing my screen so you can see those things. So right now, I'm just giving you guys insights and helping you out with your content. So I just got a message from Facebook. Somebody on Facebook just sent a message. And I see you, Mpo. I see you. I know Mpo is usually here on Clubhouse, but she's on the Facebook group right now. So let me answer your question. Your question is, are the websites that suggest heading good to make my content going to make my content rank better on Google? Great question. I think that's what Andrea was also asking too, just a little bit close to it. So I want to help you with this question. The website that you suggest definitely makes your content rank better on Google. Why? If you have a content article piece that is going to be talking about a certain base or certain subject matter, right? Now, that content that you produce, if you now say, here is some facts from WebMD, for example, about this and this and that, you're going to use that article that they gave you or the article that is already existing and then tag that as a backlink to your website. When you do that, it means that you have a credible source that you can refer someone to, and you also have credible information about your business well enough that you can tell someone where to go, because you're not worried about their content, you're not worried about their business, you're not worried about, oh, are they going to click on this link and then they lose me as a customer or I lose them as a client. That's something that you is debatable. But here's the thing: if you are authentic with your content, if you're very helpful with your content, and you navigate those content pieces to other platforms, then you're going to ultimately rank better on Google. And here's why. Imagine if you didn't do that. Let's say you posted a piece of content and then you didn't rank it, you didn't send the ranking to the right place. That is a bad source, because that bad source is pretty much linked to you, and you don't want to be linked badly, to that kind of resource. So the main reason why this is something that you should be able to do as a good practice is because when you create content, right? There's something called domain authority, and everybody's website starts from 1. The average is 50, but the top are like YouTube, let's say Pinterest, LinkedIn, the App Store, the Google Play Store. Those have high domain ranking authorities, probably over 90. So if you have a website, let's say, very easy example, if you have a website and you have a blog, and that blog has an article, and that article has content, then the content that you're going to have is going to have context, and that context could be explained through a YouTube video which has high domain authority, and someone can watch your YouTube video from your website. They don't have to go to youtube.com to watch your video. They can watch it on your website. Now you're adding watch time to your website or your web page. And when you're doing that consistently, you're going to give Google a chance to really understand your content. And because of the domain authority, you end up ranking better. And that's why when people search on Google for something and you get results from, let's say, YouTube stamps or YouTube timestamps, those results, chances are, and high chances are, which is a high probability, that your content is being put somewhere on a blog. It's being put somewhere in an article piece. It's being put somewhere as a backlink. So that's one way you can be able to start creating content and using domain authority to push out your content further. So that's something that I hope that you were able to get through, and also for people who are in the room as well to understand, so that we can be able to have a really, really good conversation and take this to the next level. So I have a few minutes. I'm going to turn off the hand raising and then I'll turn it back on. And if anyone has a question in the next 1 or 2 minutes, please raise your hand. Again, I just wanted to refresh it because I was not too sure if you wanted to raise your hand or not. But if you do have a question right now, now is the time to raise your hand and I'll be able to bring you up on stage so that we can talk and have a conversation and then know what to do for your business. But we've had amazing questions today from Mpo. We've had amazing questions from Andrea. We just appreciate you, for just being here and just asking these questions, because that way it actually builds clarity for people and we can be able to make this better. So I know I've been on LinkedIn, I've been on Facebook, I've been on Periscope, I've been on all these platforms today, and I haven't gone live on all the platforms at once like I have in a long time. Usually I go straight into the Facebook group, but today I wanted to just be a little bit more open so that people can be able to have a chance to hear this information, know what's going on, because information is power, and using the information is as powerful. So that's why I want to make sure that you have understanding about what we're talking about today, so that you don't make those mistakes along the way and maximize on your time, because time is something we don't get back. It's a luxury, but we do not get it back. So I want you guys to really understand how this goes and how we can be able to make this happen for your business. So I'll close off the hand raising now, since no one wants to say anything. And I'm happy that we can understand each other and really grow together. So, with that said, I can see on LinkedIn we had about 13 people, 14 people actually, who attended this, and I know that they're going to probably binge watch this after. On Clubhouse, you know where to find this information. If you're in this club, you can find it in the Facebook group at Pinterest and SEO Marketing. This information is going to be here for you, and it's all yours. Actually, it's all your information to actually like put in, and I'm hoping that you guys can be able to understand how to do this from the perspective of actually creating value and creating constant relevance to your business. So once you do this, it's going to change how you think. It's going to change how you help people think, and it's also going to change how you show yourself as a business, because every day we evolve, and as we evolve we get better. So these are things that I want you to take care and focus on, so that when you're building content for people, it's not too hard, it's not too far, it's not too confusing, and you can be able to do a lot of good things with that. So, with that said, I wanted to make sure I'm here and give you guys this information as I should, because I feel like I'm responsible for my club to always show up and give value, because I intentionally made this club to make sure that you guys have a better understanding on how to use this better than you're using it right now. Google always changes, things always change, and you want to stay on top of this, especially as a business. This is the best time to actually use SEO, because between now and December, a lot of people who are going to end up on the Google search are going to be benefiting, because there's about 53, if you guys didn't know this, there's 53.3% of organic traffic that is given through Google to the people who actually end up finding content that's relevant to their need. Just like you go on Google today, you make sure you type something, you see the result, you click on it, you find the result, you close the page. If you like the page that well, you can be able to actually interact with that content feed and maybe opt in to their feed so that you can learn more. So everybody's at a different stage in their lives, and I respect that 101%. But at the same time, I want to make sure that you also understand that time is also not waiting for anybody, and you want to apply this strategically in a way that you can actually add value. So that's why I'm coming here today to give you this information. I got to learn about this last week, and I said today is Monday, and I want to make sure that you guys start off right, do the right things the right way, take one thing that I said today and run with it, so that you can be able to use this for your business and overall for the benefit of your business going forward. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If it's your first time listening, I really appreciate you for being here and just joining the conversation. If you're returning, it's good to see you. I know that Francis, I know that CZ, Amit, Cherish, Christina, and Sian, and also Yoginsta. Sorry if I said it wrongly, but you guys are all welcome. I can see you're the first time listeners, and it's good to see you here. Please make sure that you follow this club so you don't miss out on any of these rooms. And if you're joining us for the first time, please make sure that you follow the Facebook group as well. You can find the link in my bio on Instagram or Facebook. Sorry, on Twitter or Instagram. The link is under my Clubhouse profile. And you can be able to now binge watch and listen to all the episodes that we have available to you. You may have missed some of them in the past, but they're all available to you. There's some new things that are going to be coming up very soon this month. So that's why I'm really coming here in the daytime to give you this. Usually I run rooms in the evening, like from 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern. But today I was like, you know what? Let me come in the afternoon and see what happens. And I really appreciate all of you for being here and just taking time to listen, to ask your question, and to learn, because I too am learning. The more I learn, the more I teach. The more I teach, the more I see. So those are the things that I'm doing, and I'm not just sitting back. So I really appreciate you for being here, supporting, and just bringing some light, so you can be able to help somebody else that you're probably working with, to make sure that you can be able to see these things clearly and much, much faster. So with that said, guys, I appreciate you all for being here. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next room. Make sure that you follow the club so you can see the next rooms that are going to be popping up in your schedule. Add them to your calendar, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful afternoon wherever you are, and take care and have a wonderful holiday for those who are having a holiday. See you guys soon. Bye for now.